I also want to say thank you to National Review, which has been, I will always say that my career in the Justice Department and being able to walk into a courtroom and say I represent the United States of America is as proud a moment and moments as any I'll ever have. But very similar to that is the feeling of being associated with National Review, with the legacy of William F. Buckley. And I see my friend Rich Lowry is here. The legacy of National Review couldn't be in better hands, and I'm delighted to be associated. And I also want to thank my good friend and publisher, Roger Kimball. I published a book this year through Encounter Books called Willful Blindness. It was a book I never thought I'd write, and I actually, as Frank mentioned, I do like to write. I have this attic, and I can rant, and it's a nice arrangement. But that was a book I never wanted to write because I don't think people who are involved in national security matters ought to be in the business of tell-all books. I think when people close the door and have to make important national security decisions, it's vital that they be able to give the decision makers the best advice that they can give them and not worry that somebody is writing it all down. But it seemed to me that 12 years later, we were fighting exactly the same battle that we were fighting back in 1993 when radical Islam declared its war on the United States. And sadly, we were making the same mistakes as we were making in 1993. And unfortunately, the trajectory of the way we fight the war seems to get worse rather than better in the years after 9/11. So as much as I didn't want to write anything that smacked at all of being a tell-all book, and I don't think it's that in the end. I think it's more of a history book and an assessment not only of what we did wrong, but what I did wrong in many ways. But I think it was important to get out there the version of events of what this enemy was and what our problems confronting it were from somebody who was on the inside of it. Really, for the first time, I think that's been done, and hopefully it was done in an honest way, in a forthright way, and a way that wasn't afraid to look at the mistakes we made, including my own. And it would never have gotten done without Roger, so I'm eternally grateful to Roger for that. Talking to Frank and Amanda about what to say at an occasion like this, in a moment like this, and I was encouraged to talk about why it is that we do what we do. And it's odd that should take some thought, because I don't think you do what you do thinking about how would it look if I do what I do. You just do it if it's ingrained in us. And I get a lot of very nice email and very nice messages from people thanking not only me but the other prosecutors and agents for what we did back in the 90s and what's continued to be done in at least the Justice Department side of the war on terror. And I'm always obviously very grateful and humbled to get that sort of thing. But I also think it's out of place in many ways. Because if you do what I do, if you were a lawyer and you trained yourself to be a litigator, being in a terrorism trial in a lot of ways it's like being a pitcher who gets to pitch in the 7th game of the World Series. It's not a sacrifice. It's doing what you love the most, and at the same time knowing you get to do it for your country, which is really an amazing and humbling feeling. But also, especially when you get around a little bit and talk to the other people who've been so deeply involved in the war, the sacrifices that we're asked to make as lawyers and agents, compared to what our soldiers have to go through on a daily basis, putting their lives on the line every single day, there isn't any comparison. And the real heroes of this war are the people who put their lives on the line every day, our soldiers, our intelligence personnel in harm's way. And the real message of that is the difference between the way we waged the war before September 11th and the way we waged the war since September 11th. Before September 11th, the Justice Department, which I was very proud to work for and very proud of the efforts that we made, we were the point of the counterterrorism spear. In many ways, we were the spear. I don't know if you could call us kit and caboodle about a spear, but we were the, we were the whole spear. There really wasn't much else besides prosecution in the criminal justice system that went on back at that time. And look at what the result of that was. In a period of 8 years between the time radical Islam declared war on the United States by bombing the World Trade Center and ultimately destroyed that complex on 9/11, our country was hit about once a year by this enemy. The 93 attack was followed by a plot to bomb New York City landmarks. In 1994, we had the plot on the airliners over the Pacific that was called Bojenka. 96 saw the bombing of the Khobar Towers, where 19 members of our Air Force were killed. In 1998, the embassy bombings, where over 200 innocent people, mostly Muslims, were killed in Kenya and Tanzania. There was a plot on Los Angeles Airport that was called the Millennium Plot in 1999 that was supposed to be timed with the Millennium Celebration. And finally, the Cole bombing in October of 2000, where 17 members of the U.S. Navy were killed. And finally, 9/11. So you have 8 years of attacks by an enemy that is growing by any estimation stronger, bolder, more audacious over time. And during that period of time, while the Justice Department was carrying the ball for what was then our war on terror, or at least our reaction to the jihad we were up against, we managed to take out 29 terrorists. And most of the people that we took out were fairly low-level players. If you want to know what the impact or what the potential of fighting this enemy by indictments and subpoenas is, I would remind people the next time somebody tells you that we can manage this problem in the criminal justice system, that Osama bin Laden has been under indictment in this country since June of 1998. That's before the embassy bombings, before the Millennium Plot, before the Cole, and before 9/11. And if we haven't gotten the message by now that adding counts to the indictment doesn't deter him much, I don't know when it is that we get that message. Why do we do what we do? I saw this, there was a very thorough, comprehensive, and I thought well-done article in the Wall Street Journal a couple of days ago about the attacks in India. And I don't mean to read at you, but I thought that some of it was worth recounting just to underscore the point of why it is we do what we do. At Bombay's monumental colonial-era train station, 2 gunmen in dark T-shirts holding heavy backpacks walked down platform 13, which opens into a large hall. First, they threw a hand grenade into the crowd of travelers. Then they unloaded volleys of gunfire. Bullets flew everywhere indiscriminately. One man was killed as he walked across the concourse. The gunmen peppered a book stand at the back of the hall, with bullets shattering the glass. The 2 gunmen moved along 2 separate paths toward the station's main entrance, firing as they walked. The head of the Railway Protection Force for the Mumbai region says that while some officers tried to fight back, there was little his force could do. They weren't anticipating anything like this.